Second day of hearing on the Taipo fire finds many people ignore the safety risks of foam boards. Labor Department continues probes into the fatal tower crane collapse in Taichung. And Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi sought to reaffirm her alliance with U.S. President Donald Trump. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The independent committee investigating the Taipo fire said that Wanfu Court's contractor was aware of the flammability of foam boards used to shield windows at the 8 buildings, but the contractor continued to use the material regardless. This revelation came as the public hearing resumed today. Memo Singai reports.
The independent committee, chaired by Justice David Look, resumed its second day of hearing at Central City Gallery. Victor Dose, the committee's senior counsel, first focused on the issue of compostable foam boards. Dose said Wanfu Court's contractor, Prestige Construction and Engineering, suggested using the foam boards in a meeting back in 2024. Another consultant, Willpower, pointed out that the boards were flammable, but Prestige pressed on with the decision. In a WhatsApp conversation between the chairman of the Wanfu Court Owners Management Corporation and Prestige, the former said residents were concerned about the fire hazard of the foam boards. Prestige said it would buy a new batch of foam boards, and the chairman asked the contractor to do a flammability test and take a video. Prestige then ordered some non-flammable foam boards, with evidence showing that they cost twice as much as the flammable ones. But the inflammable material was only installed at non-shielded windows, meaning the flammable foam boards stayed on some of the other units' windows. This also suggests that both a mixture of inflammable and compostable foam boards was used in the project at the same time. Evidence shows that some residents had filed complaints to the Fire Services Department in 2024. The complainants asked the FSD to investigate the foam boards, with one saying, "We desperately need your help on site inspection." While the FSD later inspected the housing estate, it replied to the complainants that the issue was beyond the ambit of the department. Doe said the fire safety law states the FSD has the responsibility to offer advice over fire safety measures when necessary. He said the committee would discuss if the department's replies were suitable. The committee said that it would seek expert opinions on the foam boards, aiming to find out if the material had accelerated the spread of the fire. Memo Singai, TVB News.
New details also came to light over alleged irregularities in the tendering process for Wanfu Court's major renovation works, with some records unfavorable to the winning bidder Prestige removed. Multiple bidding companies were also found to have links with the winning bidder. In the hearing today, the independent committee's lead barrister Victor Dahl cited the Competition Commission's findings, which revealed that a number of contractors may have influenced the tender outcome through coordinated actions. One of the bidding companies, Megapraise Construction, is partly owned by Chung Yin Kam, the wife of Hao Wa Kin, who's the director of Prestige. Hao, Chung, and their two business partners had opened another company. The two partners own Senhoi and Sunarts respectively, which also filed tenders for the renovation project. The director of Whiteley Construction, which also tendered a bid, worked with Prestige Hao for 4 years. Another bidder, Mansing, whose shareholders Tamchi Man and Hao jointly own another company, shares an office with Prestige. That means, including the winning bidder for Wanfu Court's renovation project, Prestige, 6 bidding companies have links to Hao Wa Kin. However, these companies did not disclose their relationships during the bidding process. The inquiry committee had written to Hao for an explanation, but Hao says some companies were only shared tenants with them. Engineering consultancy firm Willpower assisted in evaluating the bids. In writing the tender evaluation report, Willpower claimed that Prestige had no criminal records, but the firm had in fact been convicted 24 times for occupational safety breaches. A Willpower employee testified that after completing the analysis, the report was handed over to Director Wong Hap-yin. When Wong handed the information back to him for verification, the employee noticed that report had been amended with some adverse records removed. The employee raised questions to Wong, who later said the alteration could be ignored. Another director of Willpower, Ng Yerk, who is the only registered inspector of the project, was also found to have failed his inspection duties during the tendering process and may have just rubber-stamped all submissions. Separately, the hearing reviewed irregularities in the voting process for the renovation works. Although around 300 residents attended a special owners meeting in early 2024, over 500 votes were counted, and some residents reported that votes were cast in their names without authorization. The Labor Department continues its probes into the fatal tower crane collapse incident in a public housing construction site in Kwai Chung. The Development Bureau has immediately suspended the contractor involved from public works bidding in construction projects. The collapsed crane could be seen lying across a hillside along Tai Wah Hau Road, with workers returning to the site for inspection. The incident happened yesterday afternoon when a 62-year-old male operator fell with a crane from height and was certified dead at the scene. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun says legal action will be taken if any violations are found. He says authorities will examine whether there were issues with the crane designs and installations, whether regular inspections were done in full compliance with requirements, and whether the lifting operation exceeded the crane's design load. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi sought to reaffirm her alliance with U.S. President Donald Trump after the president this week seemed to complain that Japan was among the nations that did not quickly join his call to help protect the Strait of Hormuz. This as Israel launched a fresh wave of attacks on Iran today, a day after Trump told it not to repeat its strikes on Iranian natural gas infrastructure, which sharply escalated the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Tracy Furness reports.
During an Oval Office meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, a Japanese reporter asked the US president why he did not alert allies in advance before striking Iran. Trump invoked Pearl Harbor to defend the decision.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did.
This is a Trump defense chief says the Pentagon is seeking $200 billion in additional funds for the Iran war.
Well, as far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys.
The $200 billion request would be on top of the Pentagon's already sizable budget, which is more than $800 billion. And it comes at a time when the government is running a major deficit. The Congressional Budget Office found that the federal government's current spending deficit is at about $1.9 trillion.
Meanwhile, Iran's Mizan news agency reported Thursday the execution of 3 men detained in January's nationwide protests, the first such sentences known to have been carried out. The 3 men allegedly stabbed 2 police officers to death in Qom, some 130 kilometers south of Tehran, during the protests. Iran put down the demonstrations, reportedly killing thousands and detaining tens of thousands. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Japan has agreed to a $73 billion in U.S. energy investment, as well as a critical mineral action plan, after its Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi met with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. During the talks, Trump expressed his anticipation of visiting China, while Takaichi said Tokyo remains open to dialogue with Beijing. Danny Zhou tells us more.
Donald Trump on Thursday held meetings with Sanae Takaichi, who is on her inaugural visit to the U.S. since taking office as Prime Minister. Both reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening cooperation in a joint statement, including Japanese investment of up to $73 billion in building small modular nuclear reactors and developing gas power in the United States. An action plan is also unveiled to seek alternatives to China for critical minerals and rare earths. When asked by reporters about China's stance toward Japan, the U.S. president noted he looks forward to a visit to Beijing.
And I think we're going to have a great trip. The trip has been postponed for about a month and a half. It's been reset, and we look forward to it. And I'll be speaking Japan's praises when I'm in China with President Xi.
Takaichi said that Japan has been constantly open to dialogue with China and attempts to address bilateral relationship in a calm manner. Xi and Trump lauded the alliance between Japan and the US at a state dinner in the evening.
So just to close up with the commitment of the leaders and the biggest leaders in the country, some of the most successful people in the country politically and business-wise, and all of the partners in the room, the United States and Japan can be an unstoppable force for freedom, security, and progress for our countries and for the entire world to look up to.
Through an interpreter, Takaichi referred to the leaders as best buddies to share the goal of building a more prosperous Japan and a more prosperous America before declaring Japan is back.
Japan is back.
The foreign ministry in Beijing today reacted to Takaichi's comments regarding China and said genuine dialogue should be built on the basis of mutual respect and adherence to consensus. A spokesman underscored Tokyo should adhere to the full political documents between the two countries and retract the Prime Minister's erroneous Taiwan remarks as soon as possible if it's truly sincere about improving ties with Beijing. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Sources say a U.S. F-35 stealth fighter jet that is suspected to have been shot by Iran performed emergency landing at a Middle East airbase, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged military operations against Iran would last as long as necessary. U.S. President Donald Trump said he had told Netanyahu to stop attacks on Iranian oil and gas infrastructure. Danny Zhou has the story.
Iran has fired a barrage of missiles and drones over the past few days, hitting targets including Israel's interior and security departments. As part of the 65th wave of its Operation True Promise, Iran struck oil refineries in the Israeli cities of Haifa and Ashdod for the first time, using the new guided Nasrallah missile, an upgraded Qatar ballistic missile. A series of Israeli security and military support facilities were pounded alongside some U.S. bases in the region. The Israel Defense Forces claimed pieces of shrapnel from an intercepted Iranian ballistic missile fell in Haifa. According to media reports, Israeli fighter jets earlier struck several Iranian naval vessels, including missile boats and support craft, with the IDF saying it took out Iran's naval capabilities in the Caspian Sea. Following the downing of more than 125 U.S. and Israeli drones, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on Thursday announced the successful interception of a U.S. F-35 stealth fighter jet. The Guard said its advanced air defense system severely damaged the F-35 flying over central Iran. The U.S. Central Command claimed the aircraft made an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase and that its status remains under investigation. Iran has hit energy infrastructure around neighboring Gulf states, including Kuwait, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, following Israel's attacks on South Pars, sending oil prices soaring. Late Thursday, Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would hold off on any further attacks on the gas field at the request of U.S. President Donald Trump.
I told him don't do that, and he won't do that.
The United Arab Emirates, Kuwait and Jordan, that includes radar, anti-drone system and other military equipment. During an interview with Fox News, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent broached lifting sanctions on Iranian oil that is already at sea. But experts suggest the move may have limited effect in easing oil prices and could lead to money flowing into Iran. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
And still ahead, the government is considering introducing a booking and fee system for popular campsites. Immigration Department conducts a 4-day crackdown on illegal workers. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expects a meeting with the Americans on peace talks soon. Welcome back. The government is considering introducing a booking and fee system for popular campsites, and a trial of the scheme could be rolled out in East Saikong. They include campsites around Saiwan and Hampton Wai. Some camping enthusiasts support the idea, saying the reservation can improve the overall experience, but they also raised concerns about difficulties in enforcement, especially against littering. The Immigration Department conducted a 4-day crackdown on illegal workers, arresting 25 people. Following an investigation, the Immigration Department launched a 4-day crackdown starting Monday, focusing on illegal workers in the food and cleaning industries. A total of 23 restaurants, eateries, and cleaning companies were searched, resulting in the arrests of 19 illegal workers and 6 employers. The arrested illegal workers were aged between 22 and 62. More than half, 11 of them, were mainland tourists, including one mainland illegal immigrant and one former domestic helper who had overstayed their visa. They worked as dishwashers and general laborers, some having been employed for 6 months, earning daily wages of between $200 and $600. Most were paid in cash to evade detection. The police held a ceremony to commend outstanding bank employees for their assistance in combating fraud. Commissioner of Police Joe Chow, along with representatives from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the Hong Kong Association of Banks, attended the ceremony. In his speech, Chow said the decline in fraud cases in Hong Kong last year was thanks to the banking industry. He noted that 639 bank employees proactively intervened, preventing 595 fraud cases last year, and the ceremony specifically commended 16 outstanding employees. He said police have collaborated with the banking industry to combat fraud, preventing 1,522 fraud cases last year, involving $2 billion. The Hong Kong Flower Show opens today at Victoria Park. The show's theme bloom of the year, the stock flower, also known as the chili flower, has taken center stage. Taking over the park are not just floral displays, but also locals and tourists. Some students try to capture the scene with sketchbooks in hand. Officiating the opening ceremony, Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law notes that the flower show this year showcases multiple landscape installations fusing floral artistry with Hong Kong flavors. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.